Hello, you guys. So, if you guys can hear some construction noise, I'm sorry, but it's been going on the whole day, and I just wanted to film this, and I don't want to wait anymore. So, let's just start. So, today I'm going to be showing you how I protect my books when I'm on the go, and how I also annotate my books. So, this is a plastic zipper bag. You can use it as a pencil case, as anything that you want. And I like this because this is waterproof and it just protects my books that I'm reading, like my bus book, which is a book that I only read when I'm like on the taxi, on the bus, in the line of a grocery store, places like that. So I eventually I wanted to get like a book pouch or book sleeve that people call it, but I didn't want the fabric one because let's say that it's raining and you forgot your umbrella and you're running through the you have to run to go somewhere, you're running through the rain and your bag gets wet. Even if the rain gets your bag completely wet, even your book sleeve, the fabric one, can get wet and still ruin your book. So I opted for this one because it's plastic and it's waterproof. So if I just take out my book, I like it because you don't have to worry about, let's say you don't have like a pouch like this. You put your book in your bag, and whatever is under, let's say maybe your keys or something, can like rub on the book. It can like maybe rip a page or maybe like fold like your cover or something like that and completely ruining your book. So I always tell people to get like one of these zipper bags. And usually, let me just get everything out. So usually what I do is spine first. Let me get this thing out. Okay, so spine first. I put the book in. Then I grab my supplies that I use, which is just a normal pencil, an eraser, and pencil sharpener. And I'll put it like here on top of the book, here. And then I just close it. And when I'm reading, I no longer have to worry about going through the bottom of my bag to look for my supplies to read my book on the bus. I can just grab this bag like out of my bag, and I already know that all of my supplies and my book is in this pouch. And I have different sizes in case of like a bigger book, like let's say maybe this one might fit inside of this bag or something. And I want to get a bigger one so that I can also put in for my laptop, because it rains at random times in my country and I'm not always with like an umbrella, and I just really want to like protect my books and my computer. So now that that is over with, let's get into how I annotate my books. So I have this box right here. This is like a box that came in like a watch or something. Okay, so here I have the basic supplies that I use to annotate my books. I do not use a pen. I do not use highlighters on my book. One, because I'm afraid of ruining my books, and two, I actually try to like underline with a pen and take notes on the very book with a pen. To a book that a friend gave to me, Crime and Punishment, and I hated how it looked, and the fact that I couldn't erase it, it really just annoyed me. So I decided to opt out for using a pen on my book, and I don't use highlighters because I really don't like the look of highlighters on a book. And also I tend to over highlight, so that's why I don't use highlighters. Now, I only use pencils, and sometimes I use graded pencil, sometimes not, but I tend to use this Chinese one that is like a 2B pencil, but it's really nice and easy to erase. I underline, I take notes with it. Then I have this glue. It's a really bad white glue because these post-it notes, the small ones that I bought, they don't tend to like stick very well on pages. So sometimes I have to like use glue just to stick it in. And what I like about this glue is that it's so bad that if I want to like peel off, it won't like ruin the book. So it's really, really nice. And I have it in green, blue, pink, and yellow. It's more like a pastel colors. Then here I have neon and also pastel colors. Let me just get this out. I have this one. I think they're called like page markers or something, but I use it like as mini post-it notes. If let's say I want to write something but I don't have much to write, and I don't really want to write on the margin of my book, of my page of my book, then I'm just gonna use this and write. And that's when I write with a pen and then stick it on. I have a pencil sharpener, and then I have my page flags. So for fiction, this is I usually use the same color system for my fiction and my non-fiction, and I even have it memorized in my head. So orange is for any like situation that is like going on, like something bad or something, just a situation, a plain situation happening. Pink is for like love interest, or basically, yeah, love interest, something that has to that relates to love or affection. Yellow is for good decision making, like if a character or a person in a biography is making good decisions, then I'm gonna use yellow. Green, I use it for two purposes. Like let's say I'm reading a biography and they're like showing a family tree and stuff like that. Every time a new family member is being introduced in the biography, then I'm gonna use green. Or in a fiction book, if like a new character is being introduced, I'm gonna use green so I know that a new character is being introduced. Or I can also use green for like good feel moments, like when good things are happening in a book that I really like, then yeah. And then blue is for like life altering things that happen in a character's life or in a person's life, or maybe just new information that I think it's important for me to mark. Okay, so my first method of it's not really annotating, it's just basically marking. So this is George Orwell's 1984, and since it's a really nice, a relatively like nice book and a nice cover, I once I got it, I had already like listened to the audiobook twice, and I didn't want to ruin it with like pencil marking or anything. So all I did is I marked the important parts that I knew that I wanted to revisit with page flags, as you can see. Every time that Winston was with Julia or Julia was mentioned, then it would be pink and stuff like that. As you can see, no pencil marking, nothing. I just tabbed, and that's about it. Now, if it's like, let's say, a fiction book, if it's like a fiction book, if it's just a normal plain fiction book, I usually won't mark. I'm just gonna underline. Let me just look for an underline page here. Okay, so I usually just underline with a pencil. As you can see, you can hardly see it, the underlines with the pencil. You kind of have to get closer. And I like doing it this way where you can't really see the line, or at least you can't see the pencil, because that way it's easy to erase in case if I want to give it away or sell it or something. And even when I take notes on the margin, that's when I'll go in with like a 4B pencil, more graded pencil, and then I'll write on the margin. But still likely enough that I can, you see here, that I can still easily erase. It's darker than the underlining, but I can still easily erase it. Now, when I got into like book reading, I saw a lot of YouTube videos on people like using people using, like, let's say a page flag that, or at least a tab that matches with the book cover. And that's what I did for this book. I used green, but then I decided to not do that anymore according to the cover, because sometimes I will run out of like a tab really fast, and I'll have to like buy more and more packets just to keep up with the book, which was a bad idea because I don't have orange, and pink will end up not being used because I don't have like books that the covers are orange or pink. So I no longer do that. And I have this strict rule where I only tab my books if they're classic literature or if they're nonfiction books. If it's a normal fiction book that I don't deem that important, I am not going to use my tabs, just like A Time to Kill by John Grisham, my bus books. Usually it's I usually read all of my fiction books that are not that like that I don't deem important. I usually read them as bus books. So as you can see, let me just show you. Look for a page that I underlined. Okay, so as you can see here, I just underlined. There's no tabbing, no anything. Now I'm gonna grab this humongous sort of a biography. This is a biography of Paulo Coelho by Fernando Moraes. So as you can see here, I have orange for health complication or spiritual stuff. Blue, important moments in his life. Pink, love interest because he had a lot of love interest. Green, doing things for others and life altering decisions. Yellow, places that I learned or would love to go one day. So this was one of the first books that actually tabbed most of it. So that's why it's different from what I've mentioned earlier. As you can see, I underlined, I wrote in the margins and everything. But as you can see, it's all with pencil. Whenever I had like a lot to say and the margins is not going to be enough, I just grabbed a pen and I wrote on this small tab and put it here on the end or in the margin of the book. Also, one thing that I started to do, which is amazing, is I'm gonna grab this one, Green Girls by Michael Kimball. So whenever I finish reading a fiction book or even sometimes a nonfiction, depending on the book, or even a classic literature, what I like to do is I'm gonna grab this bigger post-it notes, but the glue part is dry, it doesn't exist, so it doesn't really stick. And what I do is I'm gonna write the summary of the book. I usually do this a week after finishing a book, just because I want to get my mind in order when I write the summary. And then on a separate post-it is when I'm really gonna go in with my thoughts and how I would rate the book. Like I'm gonna go, maybe if it's possible, character by character. I will talk about the character progression, what I loved about them or what I hated about it, or the characters themselves, or even just the book itself. And so once I do that, I just put it at the beginning of the book. As you can see, this Paulo Coelho one has also a lot. So what I do is, and when I take notes here on this separate post-it notes, I usually also mark up, I don't know if you can see, it's not, okay, you can see I always take the notes, or maybe I'll write down the quote and then I'll mark, and at the end I'll use also the page. So it's easier for me to just reference back. And I did it with this book, I did it with most of my books, I do that. And what I also, other than the summary and my thoughts on the book, I also do something that I've been doing recently, which is I create my own personal index. So let's say like the character progression, or maybe if it's a biography, like the most important moments in the character's life or in the person's life, I usually write it, and then I write it as my own personal index. So if I ever maybe want to like reference back to like an important moment in Paulo Coelho's life, I know that I can just come here on the personal index and I can easily find it. And I think that's about it. So this is like one of my most tabbed books that I have. It's like a Christian book from a different church that I go to, and I just, as you can see, I underline, and then I marked up like quote number, and then I wrote it here at the back. Since I didn't really use this post-it on this book, because at the end there's this like empty pages where you can like write your notes. So I'm gonna mark up like quote 50, and then I'll write the page number, so it's just easy for me to reference back. So let's say I'm rereading this and I know that I don't really want to go through all of this. I'll reference by the tab, or maybe I'll just come here on my notes at the back, which makes my life a whole lot easier. But as you can see, there's nothing really like crazy or amazing. And here's an example of the small page flags. I think that people talk, or page tabs or something that people call it. So you can see I'm gonna underline it with a pencil. I'll put arrows just for me to know, like, it basically tells me when I'm referencing back that, oh, this is really important. If it's like a star, it's something that I want to implement in my life, or something that really touched me, and I'll mark it. You see, I even wrote like wow, and then I had something to say with overall what I learned from this page, and but it wasn't much. So instead of using the big post-it notes, I just used this small one, and then there's also notes here in the margin. So I keep my books looking neat and looking organized this way. And if I ever, let's say I want to maybe sell this book or something, I can just easily remove these tabs and I can just easily erase them. So that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope I didn't talk too much, and I hope that you're maybe motivated, or I gave you some ideas. Thanks for watching. See you guys in the next video. Bye bye.